My sister announced, "I don't care whose name is on it. The Lakehouse is still family property." Then planned to have her wedding there. So I said, "Do it, and you will spend your honeymoon in prison." 6 months ago, my grandfather passed away. He was an incredible man who built his construction business from nothing and taught me everything I know about hard work and integrity. When I was 15, he started taking me to job sites every summer, teaching me the trade. By 18, I was working full-time for him while attending community college at night. My sister Emily, 25, took a different path. She went to an expensive private university. My parents took out loans, studied art history, and spent her summers traveling Europe with friends. She visited Grandpa maybe twice a year, usually around holidays when gifts were involved. I'm not judging her choices. We're just different people. When Grandpa's will was read, he left me his lake house in Vermont. This isn't just any property. It's a beautiful 4-bedroom cabin on 10 acres with private lake access, worth approximately $850,000. He left Emily $50,000 cash and his vintage watch collection worth about $30,000. The rest of his estate was divided among various charities. The will included a letter explaining his decisions. For me, he wrote about our shared memories at the lake house, teaching me to fish the dock. We rebuilt together the summers, the first spent there learning carpentry. He said he wanted the property to stay with someone who understood its true value beyond money. For Emily, he mentioned being proud of her artistic pursuits and hoped the money would help her establish her career. My mother, Janet, 54F, was furious. She's been calling me daily, insisting that family wealth should benefit all children equally, regardless of what grandparents intended. She argues that Grandpa was old-fashioned and played favorites because I'm male and worked in construction like him. She's demanding I sell the lake house and split the proceeds with Emily. Here's where I'm conflicted. I love my sister. We've always been close despite our differences. Emily herself hasn't directly asked for the money, but she's made comments about how lucky I am and how the house could solve all her problems. She has about $80,000 in student loans and credit card debt. My mother has now involved extended family. Her sister, my aunt, called me selfish at Sunday dinner. My mom's brother said I'm disrespecting family values. They're all saying that Grandpa would have wanted us to take care of each other and that I'm being greedy by keeping the entire property. The thing is, I don't want to sell. Beyond the sentimental value, my wife Sarah and I have been planning to start a family, and we dream of our kids spending summers there like I did. We currently live in a small apartment in Boston, and this house represents a future we couldn't otherwise afford. My mother's latest argument is that I already have a stable career. I run my own construction company now, while Emily is struggling to find her path. She works part-time at a gallery and does freelance writing. She says it's my duty as the older brother to even things out. I've offered compromises. Emily can use the house whenever she wants. I'll pay for her flights to visit, and she can have her wedding there someday. I'll help her with her loans from my own savings. But my mother says this isn't enough. She wants me to either sell and split the money or buy Emily out for $400,000. Half the value minus her inheritance. Reddit. Am I the duh for keeping my grandfather's lake house even though it created an unfair inheritance split? Update 1. Posted 3 weeks later. Well, this escalated quickly. Thank you to everyone who responded to my original post. The consensus was pretty clear. I'm NTA and should honor my grandfather's wishes. I felt validated, but was still hoping to find a peaceful resolution. That hope died this weekend. I need to provide some background first. After my original post, I had a long conversation with Emily. She admitted she was hurt by the inheritance disparity, but said she understood Grandpa's reasoning. We hugged it out, and I thought we were good. I reiterated all my previous offers, and even added that I'd help her with a down payment on a condo when she's ready. She seemed genuinely grateful. My mother, however, doubled down. She started a family group chat titled Fairness for Emily, where she shared articles about inheritance inequality and how it destroys families. I muted the chat, but my wife Sarah showed me the highlights. Janet was building a case that I was a manipulative son who poisoned Grandpa against his own granddaughter. Last Thursday, Emily called me excitedly about her boyfriend Mark proposing. I was thrilled for her and immediately offered the Lakehouse for their wedding. She squealed with joy and started talking about a rustic, elegant summer wedding next June. Fast forward to Sunday. Sarah and I drove up to the Lakehouse for the weekend to do some maintenance. The place needed work. Grandpa had been ill for 2 years, and things had been neglected. We arrived to find 3 cars in the driveway: Emily's, Mark's, and a van labeled Evergreen Wedding Planning. Inside, Emily was showing a wedding planner around my house like she owned it. They were discussing removing walls to open up the flow and talking about updating the dated kitchen for the reception. The planner was taking measurements and photos of every room. When I asked what was happening, Emily cheerfully announced she was getting a head start on planning our family Lakehouse wedding. Note the pronoun. The wedding planner handed me her card and said she was so excited to transform this hidden gem into a venue. I pulled Emily aside and reminded her that this was my house, not a family property. She rolled her eyes and said, "Come on, James. We both know Mom's right. This place should belong to both of us. I'm just planning my wedding at my family's lake house." That's when I noticed she'd already posted on Instagram. "Can't wait to marry my best friend at our family's beautiful lake. Property, 2 hearts, lake house wedding, Hard Family Estate, number blessed." I told everyone they needed to leave. Emily started crying, saying I was ruining her engagement joy and being controlling about a house I didn't even pay for. Mark tried to mediate, suggesting we all calm down and discuss this like family. The wedding planner looked mortified and quickly left. Emily called our mother, who arrived within an hour. She lives 40 minutes away, so she must have sped. Janet walked in like she owned the place, didn't even acknowledge Sarah, and started berating me about traumatizing Emily during her special planning day. The argument that followed was ugly. Highlights include Janet saying Grandpa was mentally declining when he wrote the will. Emily claiming I manipulated a sick old man for financial gain. Janet threatening to contest the will. The estate lawyer already told me she has no grounds. Emily sobbing that I'm stealing her dream wedding venue. And my mother calling Sarah a gold digger who hit the jackpot. That last comment was when I lost it. Sarah grew up in foster care, worked 3 jobs to put herself through nursing school, and has never asked me for anything. She actually insisted on a prenup before we married to prove she wasn't after money. I told them all to leave my property immediately, or I'd call the police for trespassing. Emily screamed that I couldn't ban her from her inheritance. Janet said I was dead to her unless I did the right thing. They left, but not before Emily posted a tearful video on Facebook about how her brother was gatekeeping family property and ruining her wedding dreams. The post went viral in our extended family. I've received dozens of messages calling me heartless, selfish, and not the man Grandpa raised. Sarah and I spent the rest of the weekend in silence, fixing up the dock and trying to process what happened. I found myself talking to Grandpa's picture, apologizing for the drama around his beloved lake house. I've now explicitly revoked my offer to host Emily's wedding. I've also installed security cameras and changed the locks. Emily apparently had made copies of the spare key. My lawyer friend says I should document everything in case they escalate. The family group chat has exploded. Cousins I haven't spoken to in years are weighing in. My dad, who divorced my mom 10 years ago, texted saying he's proud of me for standing my ground and that Grandpa would be too. That made me cry. I don't know how to fix this. I love my sister, but she's showing a side of herself I've never seen. My mother has always been controlling, but this level of manipulation is new. I'm starting to wonder if I ever really knew them. Edit to clarify some questions. Yes, the will was properly executed, with witnesses and a lawyer. Grandpa was evaluated by his doctor 2 months before changing the will, specifically to prevent challenges. The house has been legally transferred to my name. I have title insurance. I'm not worried about legal challenges, just the destruction of my family. Update 2, posted 2 months later. I genuinely never thought I'd be back with another update, but the situation has escalated beyond anything I could have imagined. Buckle up, because this is going to be long. After my last post, I followed Reddit's advice and went low contact with my mother and Emily. I didn't block them entirely. They're still family, but I restricted their social media access and only responded to actual emergencies. For about 3 weeks, things were relatively quiet. I should have known they were planning something. It started with a letter from a lawyer, not a cease and desist or a lawsuit yet. It was a formal request for mediation to resolve the unfair distribution of the Patterson estate. Patterson was my grandfather's last name. The letter outlined their position that my grandfather was unduly influenced and that the will didn't reflect his true intentions of equal treatment for his grandchildren. I immediately contacted the estate attorney who handled Grandpa's will. He actually laughed, and said this was the most baseless claim he'd seen in 30 years of practice. He pulled out Grandpa's file, which included a medical evaluation confirming mental competency, a video recording of Grandpa explaining his bequests, previous wills showing a consistent pattern. I always got the Lakehouse. Emily always got cash valuables, signed statements from witnesses, his doctor and accountant confirming no undue influence. The lawyer said my mother and Emily were fishing, hoping I'd settle to avoid family drama. He was right. 2 days later, Emily showed up at my construction company office with Mark and a different lawyer. She was wearing what I can only describe as a sympathy costume. No makeup, messy hair, clothes that looked deliberately wrinkled. The lawyer introduced himself as specializing in family inheritance disputes and handed me a document. They weren't just asking for half the Lakehouse value anymore. The document demanded 50% of the Lakehouse value, $425,000. Emotional distress damages for being excluded from the property, $100,000. Reimbursement for wedding venue changes, $50,000. Coverage of Emily's student loans, since I got the educational advantage of working with Grandpa, $80,000. Total, $655,000. I actually laughed, which was apparently the wrong response. Emily burst into tears. I'm now convinced they were fake, and wailed about how I was enjoying her misery. Mark comforted her while giving me a death glare. The lawyer said this was a generous offer to avoid a messy public trial. I asked them to leave. Emily's tears mysteriously stopped, and she hissed, "You'll regret this, James. Mom was right about you." The mask had fully slipped. That evening, I found out what she meant. Emily had started a GoFundMe titled, "Help Me Fight for My Grandfather's Legacy." The description was a masterpiece of manipulation. My name is Emily Patterson, and I'm heartbroken to share my story. When my beloved grandfather passed, I discovered he'd left our family's historic Lakehouse worth nearly $1 million solely to my older brother. This came as a shock, as Grandpa always said the house would be for the family. I believe my grandfather was pressured in his final years. My brother, who worked in Grandpa's construction business, had exclusive access to him while I was away at college pursuing the education Grandpa always said he wanted for me. Now I'm drowning in student debt while my brother enjoys a $1 million property. All I want is fairness, to buy my own home, pay off my education, and honor what I believe were my grandfather's true wishes. Please help me fight for justice and family equality. She'd set the goal at $50,000 for legal fees. Within 24 hours, she'd raised $7,000, mostly from extended family and family friends who didn't know the whole story. The comments were brutal. James should be ashamed. Greedy men always push out the women in the family. Elder abuse is real. Report him. Emily, you deserve that house. Your grandfather would be heartbroken. I was advised not to respond publicly, but I couldn't help myself. I posted a single comment with facts. The will was legally sound with medical documentation. Emily received $80,000 in cash and valuables. I offered multiple compromises, including free use of the house. The inheritance reflected our different relationships with Grandpa. My comment was deleted within an hour. Emily had made me unable to comment on the post. Then came the social media campaign. Emily started posting old photos of her and Grandpa with captions like, "I miss you every day. I promise I'm fighting for what's right. Broken heart." She conveniently chose photos from when she was young, none from the past 10 years when she barely visited. My mother joined in, posting essays about inheritance inequality and sexism in family wealth distribution. She started a hashtag Justice for Emily. Their friends shared it. Local influencers picked it up. A regional news blog ran a story. Local woman fights for fair inheritance after grandfather leaves everything to brother. The reporter had only interviewed Emily and my mother. When I reached out to give my side, I was told they were focusing on the human interest angle of women's inheritance rights. They didn't mention that Emily had inherited significant money, just that her brother got the family estate. The pressure mounted. I received daily calls from family members saying, "Just give her something to make this stop." Messages from high school friends asking how I could do this to Emily. One-star reviews on my company's Google page calling me a thief and elder abuser. A petition at my church to encourage James to do the right thing. Sarah was harassed at her hospital. Someone left printouts of Emily's GoFundMe in the break room with, "Is this your husband?" written on them. Her coworkers started treating her differently. One nurse asked if she was proud of marrying into stolen money. We drove to the Lakehouse to escape for a weekend, only to find a for sale sign in the yard. Emily had called a realtor and pretended to be the owner. The realtor was showing the property to a couple when we arrived. I had to show documentation proving ownership and threatened legal action before they left. That night, while Sarah and I sat on the dock trying to find peace, I made a decision. I called my lawyer and told him to prepare a cease and desist letter, not just for the harassment, but for the defamation, the GoFundMe fraud, and the attempted sale of my property. I also did something Grandpa would have approved of. I documented everything, every post, every message, every false claim. I created a timeline showing Emily's actual relationship with Grandpa, the missed birthdays, the unreturned calls, the visits that only happened when she needed money. Most importantly, I digitized something I'd forgotten about, Grandpa's journals. He'd kept detailed diaries for 40 years. The entries about Emily were heartbreaking. Emily's birthday today. Sent a card and check. No thank you call. Invited Emily to the lake for 4th of July. She said she had plans with friends. Later, saw photos of her at a beach house party. Emily needed money for books. Sent $500. James told me he saw her post about her new designer purse the next day. Last will appointment today. Lawyer asked about Emily. Told him she's getting cash, easier for her to use. The lake should go to someone who sees it as more than property value. That last entry was dated just 2 months before he died, when my mother claims he was mentally declining. I'm meeting with my lawyer tomorrow to discuss next steps. I'm done trying to preserve relationships with people who only see dollar signs where memories should be. Grandpa didn't leave me just a house. He left me a reminder of what real family looks like. It looks like summer mornings learning to fish, afternoons rebuilding a dock, evenings listening to stories on the porch. Emily and my mother have made their choice. They've chosen greed over family, lies over truth, manipulation over love. I'm choosing to honor the man who actually knew what family meant. I'll update once more after the legal proceedings, whatever form they take. To those who've supported me through this, thank you. Your voices have helped me stay strong when family tried to break me down. And Grandpa, if you're reading this from wherever you are, I'm keeping my promise. The Lakehouse will stay with someone who understands its true value, just like you wanted. Final update, posted 4 months after the last. This will be my final update. I've hesitated to write this because it means accepting that my family, as I knew it, is gone. But I owe closure to those who followed this journey. And honestly, I need to write this for my own peace of mind. After my last post, I met with my lawyer and we sent a comprehensive cease and desist letter to both Emily and my mother. It detailed the defamation, harassment, fraudulent GoFundMe, attempted property fraud, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. We demanded the immediate cessation of all defamatory posts, a takedown of the GoFundMe with refunds to all donors, a public retraction of false claims, and no further contact with my wife or me outside of legal channels. Emily's response came within 48 hours, not through her lawyer, but through a Facebook Live video. She sat in her apartment surrounded by tissues, crying about how her abusive brother was now trying to silence her with legal intimidation. She claimed I was weaponizing wealth to oppress her and painted herself as a David fighting Goliath. The video went viral in our community. Hashtag Justice for Emily became hashtag Stand with Emily. Local news picked it up. The narrative was compelling. Wealthy contractor uses lawyers to silence struggling artist's sister fighting for her inheritance. The truth didn't matter anymore. The story did. What Emily didn't realize was that going public meant everything became fair game. My lawyer had warned them that continued defamation would result in us releasing evidence. They called our bluff. We didn't bluff. We created a simple website, The Truth About the Patterson Estate. On it, we posted the full will, with Grandpa's letter explaining his decisions, the medical competency evaluation, the video of Grandpa explaining his bequests, excerpts from his journals showing the relationship patterns, documentation of what Emily actually inherited, $80,000 value, screenshots of Emily's social media from the past 5 years showing her lavish lifestyle while claiming poverty, proof that her student loans were actually 40% credit card debt from shopping, and the offers I'd made that she rejected. The most damning evidence was a series of texts between Emily and her friend that we legally obtained during discovery. Emily had written, "Once I get James to crack, I'm buying a condo in Back Bay. Mom says if we keep the pressure up, he'll pay us off to make it go away. And the GoFundMe is genius. Even if we don't win legally, I'll have enough for a down payment." These idiots actually believe I was close with Grandpa. The backlash was swift. The GoFundMe was investigated and shut down. Emily had to refund over $15,000 in donations. Several family members who donated called me apologizing, saying they'd been blinded by her tears. But my mother doubled down. She filed an actual lawsuit contesting the will. Her grounds? Undue influence and lack of testamentary capacity. She hired an expensive lawyer, convinced she could win. The trial was last month. It lasted 3 days. My mother's lawyer painted me as a calculating manipulator who'd isolated a dying old man. They brought in a psychologist who'd never met Grandpa to testify about theoretical cognitive decline. They presented Emily as a loving granddaughter, denied her birthright. Our defense was simple facts. Grandpa's doctor testified about his mental sharpness. His accountant explained how Grandpa had discussed the will rationally. We played the video where Grandpa, clear and articulate, explained, "I'm leaving the Lakehouse to James because he understands what I built there. It's not about the money. It's about the memories, the traditions, the values." Emily is a lovely girl, but she sees things differently. The cash will serve her better. I hope she uses it wisely. The judge's ruling was swift and harsh. Not only did he uphold the will, but he also ordered my mother and Emily to pay my legal fees for bringing a frivolous lawsuit intended to harass. He called their actions a cynical attempt to override the clear wishes of the deceased. The aftermath was brutal. My mother sent me one final email. "You may have won legally, but you've lost your family. I hope that house was worth your sister and mother. Don't contact us again." Emily posted a final Instagram story. Sometimes you learn who people really are when money's involved. Moving on and healing from toxic family. Sparkles. The irony wasn't lost on me. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. About 2 weeks after the trial, I received a call from Mark, Emily's fiancé. He asked to meet privately. Over coffee, he told me he'd ended their engagement. "I couldn't marry someone who could lie so easily," he said. "When she cried in your office that day, she'd practiced in the mirror that morning. The whole thing was planned. I thought I knew her, but the person I saw during this, that wasn't the woman I proposed to." He also revealed that Emily had already spent her entire inheritance. The $50,000 cash was gone in 6 months, on a luxury car lease, designer clothes, and a trip to Bali, where she did a healing retreat that cost $15,000. The watches were sold immediately for less than half their value because she didn't bother getting them properly appraised. She kept saying once she got your Lakehouse money, we could have the perfect life, Mark said. But I realized there would always be another thing she deserved, another person who owed her something. Last week, I received a letter forwarded from Emily's last known address. It was from a debt collection agency. She listed me as a reference on a loan application, claiming I was her business partner. The debt collector wanted to know about our joint business ventures. I had my lawyer respond with a cease and desist. Through mutual friends, I've learned Emily is living with our mother after being evicted from her apartment. She's telling people she's writing a book about inheritance trauma. She started a new GoFundMe for her art therapy practice. She has no certification. She's engaged again to someone she met 2 months ago who understands her struggle. My mother has told the extended family that I'm dead to her. She's created an elaborate narrative where I'm a monster who stole from his sister. Some believe her. Many don't. I've stopped caring. Sarah and I spent last weekend at the Lakehouse. We finished all the repairs. The dock is rebuilt. The kitchen is updated properly, not the way Emily's wedding planner envisioned. We found out we're expecting our first child, a boy. We're planning to name him Thomas after Grandpa. As I sat on the dock watching the sunset, I thought about what this whole experience has taught me. 1. People will show you who they are when money's involved. Emily and my mother revealed themselves completely. The inheritance didn't change them. It exposed them. 2. Family isn't about blood. My real family is Sarah, our coming son, my dad who supported me, and the memory of a grandfather who knew me better than I knew myself. 3. Honor the wishes of those who've passed. Grandpa knew exactly what he was doing. He saw what I was too blind to see for years. 4. Document everything. The journals, the video, the medical records. They saved me from a false narrative that almost became truth. 5. Sometimes losing family is actually gaining freedom. I mourn the family I thought I had, not the one I actually had. To those facing similar situations, stand your ground. Honor the deceased's wishes. Don't let emotional manipulation override legal documents. And remember, someone who truly loves you won't try to take what was freely given to you by someone else. Grandpa's Lakehouse is more than property. It's a testament to a man who valued character over blood, effort over entitlement, and truth over manipulation. Every time I cast a line off the dock we rebuilt together, I thank him for seeing what I couldn't. Emily and my mother made their choices. They chose greed over gratitude, lies over love, manipulation over memory. They'll have to live with that. I've chosen peace, truth, and the legacy of a man who knew that family isn't about splitting everything equally. It's about giving what's right to those who've earned it through love, time, and genuine connection. This Lakehouse isn't my inheritance. My inheritance is the knowledge that I stood for what was right, even when it cost me everything I thought I had. Thank you all for your support through this journey. I won't be updating again. It's time to stop looking back and start building the future Grandpa envisioned when he left me this gift. To Grandpa, I kept my promise. The Lakehouse remains with someone who sees its true value. Your legacy lives on, not in the timber and stone, but in the lessons you taught and the man you helped me become. Until we meet again at that great lake in the sky, tight lines and following seas.